There comes a moment when heaven goes silent and your heart begins to wonder, God, where are you? You prayed, you believed, you waited, and still nothing seemed to move. Days turned into months, and months into years, and what felt like delay started to feel like denial. But listen to me carefully, not with your ears, but with your spirit. What if I told you that in this very moment, when it feels like time is running out, when the clock is ticking louder than your faith, there are only 9 seconds left, and God is not whispering anymore. He is roaring. Because what you call delay, heaven has been calling divine preparation. What you thought was silence was actually God aligning every unseen detail for a breakthrough that will shake your life. So don't lose heart now. Don't walk away in the final seconds, because this is the moment where everything is about to change. There are seasons in life when everything feels like it has come to a standstill. You pray with sincerity, you believe with all your heart, and yet nothing seems to move. Doors remain closed, opportunities feel distant, and the promises you once held on to begin to feel like echoes fading in the distance. In those moments, the human heart begins to question. It wonders if something went wrong, if perhaps the timing was missed, or if the answer is simply no. What feels like delay starts to feel personal, as if heaven itself has turned quiet in response to your cries. But what if the silence is not rejection? What if the delay is not denial? What if, behind the scenes, something far greater is unfolding? Something that could never happen in haste. You see, God does not operate within the limits of human urgency. While we measure time in seconds and deadlines, He moves according to purpose, alignment, and perfection. When you feel delayed, it is often because God is preparing something that requires more than just your readiness. It requires the alignment of people, circumstances, timing, and even your own inner transformation. Think about the process of growth. A seed does not break through the ground the moment it is planted. It goes into darkness first. It is covered, hidden, and pressed beneath the soil. From the outside, it appears as though nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, something powerful is taking place. Roots are forming, strength is developing, life is being built in a place no one can see. If that seed were to emerge too early, it would not survive the pressure of the environment. It would wither because it had not yet developed the strength to stand. In the same way, when God allows a delay, it is often because He is strengthening your foundation. He is building endurance in your spirit, refining your character, and preparing you for a level of responsibility and blessing that your current state cannot yet sustain. The delay is not wasted time, it is intentional time. Every moment you spend waiting is a moment where God is working in dimensions you cannot perceive. He is removing what would harm you, positioning what will help you, and shaping you into someone who can carry what you have been praying for. There are things you have asked for that are too significant to be given prematurely. If they came too early, they could overwhelm you, distract you, or even destroy you. God sees the full picture, not just the moment you are in. He understands the weight of the blessing, the impact of the breakthrough, and the timing required for it to be sustained. So while you are focused on the waiting, He is focused on the preparation. And preparation is not always comfortable. It stretches you. It challenges your patience. It forces you to confront doubt, fear, and uncertainty. It teaches you to trust beyond what you can see and to believe even when there is no visible evidence. In that space, your faith is not just declared, it is developed. It becomes stronger, deeper, and more resilient. You begin to rely not on circumstances, but on the character of God. Sometimes the delay is also about alignment with others. There are people who must enter your life at the right moment, connections that must be formed, and paths that must cross at a precise time. If your breakthrough came earlier, those connections would be missed. The blessing would arrive, but the support system, the partnership, or the opportunity tied to it would not be in place. So God holds it back, not to frustrate you, but to ensure that when it comes complete. There is also a refining that happens in delay. God uses that time to remove distractions, to purify motives, and to shift your focus from the gift back to the giver. When everything is delayed, you are invited into a deeper relationship with Him. You learn to seek His presence, not just His provision. You begin to understand that what you truly need is not just the answer to your prayer, but the one who holds every answer. The delay then becomes sacred. It becomes a space where transformation happens quietly but powerfully. It is where you are shaped into someone who can not only receive the blessing but steward it well. It is where your vision becomes clearer, your faith becomes stronger, and your dependence on God becomes unwavering. So what feels like a pause is actually progress. What feels like inactivity is divine activity in motion. God is not ignoring you. He is investing in you. He is taking the time to prepare every detail so that when the moment finally arrives, it will not just meet your expectations, it will exceed them in ways you could never have imagined. There are moments when the silence of God feels louder than any noise in the world. You pray, you worship, you cry out with sincerity, yet there is no immediate answer. No sign, no clear direction, no visible movement. It feels as though your words are rising into the air and falling back unanswered. In that quietness, doubt begins to whisper. Questions start forming in your mind, asking whether God is listening, whether He is near, whether He has chosen to remain distant. But what you perceive as silence is not emptiness. It is not absence. It is not neglect. God's silence is often filled with activity that your natural senses cannot detect. While you are looking for visible signs, He is working in unseen dimensions, arranging, aligning, and orchestrating details that are too complex for human understanding. Just because you cannot hear Him does not mean He is not speaking. Sometimes His voice is not in words, but in movement behind the scenes. There is a tendency to associate silence with inactivity. In human experience, when someone is silent, we assume they are disengaged. But with God, silence carries a different meaning. His silence is often a sign that He is doing something so intricate, so precise, that it cannot be rushed or interrupted. It is like a master artist working on a masterpiece. There are moments when the room is quiet, not because nothing is happening, but because everything requires focus and precision. In these seasons, God is aligning circumstances in ways you could never orchestrate on your own. He is shifting situations, preparing hearts, opening doors in places you have not yet reached, and closing doors that would have led you away from your purpose. While you are waiting for a clear answer, He is building a pathway. While you are asking for direction, He is arranging the journey. The silence becomes the covering under which divine alignment takes place. Often, we want immediate clarity. We want to know exactly what is happening and when it will happen. But if God revealed everything at once, it could overwhelm us. It could cause fear instead of faith, anxiety instead of trust. So he allows silence, not to confuse you, but to grow your ability to trust him beyond what you can see or hear. In that silence, your relationship with him deepens. You begin to lean not on constant reassurance, but on the confidence that he is faithful even when he is quiet. There is also a refining that takes place in silence. When there are no immediate answers, you are faced with your true condition. Your faith is tested, your patience is stretched, and your motives are revealed. You begin to ask yourself whether you are seeking God for who he is or only for what he can do. In the quiet, distractions fade away, and what remains is your connection with him. It becomes less about receiving something and more about becoming someone who trusts him completely. God's silence is also a space where alignment happens within you. Sometimes the delay is not about external circumstances, but about internal readiness. Your thoughts, your attitudes, your expectations, these things need to come into harmony with his will. In the silence, he is shaping your perspective, teaching you to see differently, to think differently, and to believe differently. He is preparing your inner world so that when the outer breakthrough comes, you are ready to receive it with clarity and stability. There are moments when multiple elements must come together at the exact right time. One small shift too early or too late could change everything. So God works quietly, bringing everything into alignment with perfect timing. People are being positioned, opportunities are being prepared, and conditions are being set. You may not see it, but every detail is being handled with precision. What looks like stillness is actually movement at a level beyond your awareness. Silence also teaches endurance. It strengthens your ability to stand firm when there is no immediate reward. It builds a kind of faith that is not dependent on constant confirmation. You learn to keep going, to keep believing, to keep trusting, even when there is no visible evidence. That kind of faith becomes unshakable because it is rooted not in what you experience, but in who God is. Sometimes God's silence protects you. There are things you are not yet ready to handle, truths that could distract you, or information that could lead you in the wrong direction if revealed too soon. So he withholds, not out of distance, but out of care. His silence becomes a shield, keeping you focused and grounded until the right moment arrives. In the silence, God is never idle. Every second is filled with intention. Every moment carries purpose. The alignment that is happening is not random. It is deliberate and precise. Even when nothing seems to change on the surface, everything is being adjusted beneath it. Paths are being cleared. Obstacles are being removed, and outcomes are being secured in ways that only he can accomplish. There comes a point in every journey where the pressure intensifies, where everything feels heavier, and where the finish line seems both close and impossibly far at the same time. It is in these final moments that your faith is tested in its purest form. Not at the beginning, when excitement is high and hope is fresh, but near the end, when you have already invested so much, endured so much, and are running on what feels like your last ounce of strength. The final moments are different. They carry a unique kind of weight. You have already prayed, already believed, already waited longer than you thought you would have to. And now, standing at the edge of breakthrough, you feel a tension rising within you. Questions begin to surface again. What if nothing happens? What if I misunderstood? What if all of this waiting leads to nothing? These thoughts are not random. They are part of the pressure that comes in the final stretch. But this pressure is not meant to break you. It is meant to reveal you. It reveals what your faith is truly made of when there is no external evidence left to support it. Anyone can believe when things are moving forward, when signs are visible, and when progress is obvious. But it takes a different level of faith to stand firm when everything feels uncertain, when time is almost up, and when the outcome is still unseen. In these moments, your faith is being refined. It is being stripped of dependence on feelings, circumstances, and visible confirmation. It is being shaped into something deeper, something that does not waver even when everything around it does. This is where faith becomes a decision, not just an emotion. A choice to believe even when doubt is loud. A choice to stand even when everything inside you wants to step back. The final moments often feel the hardest because they require the most trust. You are asked to hold on when letting go seems easier. You are asked to keep believing when giving up feels more reasonable. And yet, this is the very point where your breakthrough is closest. The intensity you feel is not a sign that you are far away. It is often a sign that you are right at the threshold. Think about a runner approaching the finish line. The body is tired, the muscles are strained, and every step requires more effort than the last. But it is also the moment where everything counts the most. The race is not defined by how it started, but by how it is finished. In the same way, your journey of faith is not defined by your strongest moments at the beginning, but by your perseverance in the end. There is also a spiritual resistance that often increases in these final moments. It is not coincidence that doubt, fear, and discouragement seem to grow stronger just when you are about to step into something new. This resistance is an attempt to make you walk away before you receive what you have been waiting for. It tries to convince you that it is not worth it, that it will not happen, that you should stop now before you are disappointed. But if you understand what is happening, you begin to see it differently. You realize that the intensity is not there to defeat you, but to distract you. It is there to shift your focus away from what is coming and onto what you are feeling. If you allow your emotions to take control, you may step back at the very moment you were meant to step forward. The final test of faith is not about whether you are perfect. It is about whether you are persistent. It is about whether you can stay grounded in what you believe, even when everything around you is unstable. It is about trusting that what God has begun, He will complete, even if you cannot yet see how. In these moments, you are also being prepared to handle what comes next. Breakthrough is not just about receiving something, it is about sustaining it. The strength you develop in the final stretch becomes the foundation that allows you to carry what you are about to receive. Without this testing, the weight of the blessing could become overwhelming. But through it, you are strengthened, stabilized, and made ready. There is a shift that happens when you choose to stand firm in the final moments. Something inside you becomes unshakable. Your faith moves beyond dependency on outcomes and becomes rooted in trust. You begin to understand that your future is not determined by the pressure you feel, but by the promise you hold on to. And even when the clock feels like it is ticking louder, even when everything seems to be narrowing down to a single moment, you remain steady, knowing that what lies ahead is not controlled by your fear, but by God's faithfulness. There are moments in life when everything shifts suddenly, when what once felt distant becomes undeniable, and what once seemed impossible becomes reality. These are the moments when God moves with power, clarity, and authority. Moments when His presence is no longer subtle, no longer quiet, but overwhelming and unmistakable. It is in these moments that it feels as though God is not just speaking, but roaring. A roar is not gentle. It is not easily ignored. It commands attention. It carries power, authority, and finality. When God moves in this way, there is no confusion about what is happening. The waiting, the silence, the preparation, all of it leads to a moment where everything changes at once. What took so long to build suddenly begins to unfold rapidly, and what once felt blocked becomes open. Breakthrough in its true form is not something that can be stopped by human limitation. When God releases it, it carries a force that goes beyond logic, beyond expectation, and beyond resistance. Doors that were firmly shut begin to open without explanation. Situations that seemed fixed begin to shift. Obstacles that once stood immovable begin to collapse. It is not because circumstances suddenly decided to cooperate, but because God has stepped in with authority. This kind of movement does not happen randomly. It is the result of everything that came before it. The preparation, the alignment, the testing, and the waiting. Every moment you thought was wasted was actually building toward this point. Every delay was setting the stage. Every challenge was strengthening you. So when the breakthrough comes, it is not fragile. It is not temporary. It is established with power. There is something unstoppable about a move of God. It does not depend on approval, permission, or perfect conditions. It overrides limitations. It surpasses barriers. It moves through places where human effort could not succeed. This is why when God roars, it changes everything. What once required constant effort begins to flow with ease. What once caused stress and uncertainty becomes clear and stable. But there is also a responsibility that comes with this moment. When breakthrough is released, it requires you to move with it. You cannot remain in the mindset of waiting when God has shifted into movement. You cannot hold on to doubt when God has made His power evident. The same faith that carried you through the waiting must now carry you into action. You are called to step forward, to embrace what has been opened, and to walk confidently into what God has prepared. Often people struggle at this stage because they have become so accustomed to delay that they hesitate when things finally begin to happen. They question whether it is real, whether it will last, whether they are truly ready. But breakthrough requires a different response. It requires boldness. It requires trust in a new way, not just trusting God in silence, but trusting Him in movement. When God roars, it also silences every opposing voice. Doubt loses its power. Fear loses its grip. The things that once intimidated you no longer have the same effect. This is because the authority of God's movement is greater than any resistance you faced before. The same voices that once told you it was impossible are overshadowed by the reality of what God is doing. There is also a sense of acceleration in breakthrough. What seemed slow for so long begins to move quickly. Opportunities arise one after another. Connections are formed. Progress happens in ways that feel almost overwhelming. It is as if time itself has shifted, making up for everything that felt delayed. This is not coincidence. It is the nature of divine movement. When the time is right, things come together with speed and precision. In this moment, you begin to see why the waiting was necessary. You understand why things could not happen earlier. The complexity, the detail, the timing, it all becomes clear as everything aligns perfectly. What once felt confusing now makes sense. What once felt frustrating now feels purposeful. You realize that nothing was random, nothing was wasted, and nothing was overlooked. Breakthrough also carries impact beyond just your own life. When God moves in power, it affects others. It becomes a testimony, a sign, and a source of encouragement. People begin to see what God has done, and it shifts their perspective as well. It reminds them that what seems impossible is still within reach when God is involved. The roar of God is not just about noise, it is about authority in action. It is the declaration that the season has changed, that the waiting has ended, and that what has been prepared is now being released. It is a moment where everything that was held back is now moving forward with force, clarity, and purpose. It is the undeniable evidence that God was present all along, working, preparing, and orchestrating every detail, so that when the time came, nothing could stand in the way of what He had determined to do.